House? Okay, great. Well, welcome. Hope you come back. We do a lot of events. We do multiple events a week, so definitely scan the QR code over there to get our Luma calendar. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the space before we chat with Kelly here. This is AI House. We moved here about a year and a half ago. We've had more than 20,000 people come through, really just to have a community of AI builders, founders, and all the above. So part of the AI House is the AI House Incubator. So our offices are back there. We are one of the world's leading early stage programs for AI startups. We invest up to $600,000 in teams. Sometimes it's just a solo founder with an idea. So we're very early. We work really closely with companies as they grow and scale from day one. So we're pre-seed. If you're interested in the incubator, head to aihouse.vc and you can apply there. I just want to give a shout out to our partners at JP Google Cloud, as well as our foundational partners, the City of Seattle and Ada Developers Academy. Finally, last infomercial, if you're looking for co-working space, there's a bunch of office space down below us actually. A lot of other companies are working down there, Seattle startups. That's run by Waterfront Workspaces, so it's a different company, but if you're interested, search Waterfront Workspaces online and let them know AI House sent you, and they'll take care of you. Okay, cool. Let's get going. We don't have too much time. I want to welcome Kelly, President Wright. Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
We're going to chat for a bit, and you all submitted some great questions, so we'll get into those, and then we'll leave a little bit of time afterward for some Q&A, and then, of course, some networking after that. A lot of you probably know Kelly. Has got an incredible resume. She was the first salesperson at Tableau back when that was a little startup. Then went to Gong, was president there, sat on a number of boards, started Culture-Driven Sales, which is your own firm. So you've done a lot, but before all that, you were actually going door-to-door selling textbooks, right? So this was kind of your entry into the sales universe, and it seems like maybe where your passion really sparked. So can you tell us about that? Before all the LinkedIn stuff,
Well, first, Taylor, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. Taylor and I have known each other for a long time because Taylor covered all of Tableau for many, many years when he was at GeekWire. But first, I just want to say I love doing these kind of events. And so thank you for coming. Thank you for spending some time here. And building and starting a company is hard. So to all of you, congratulations and kudos for, many of you are founders here, but even if you're just one of the employees early on, it's a lot of work. And so congratulations for taking the plunge and taking the risks, and you should be really, really proud to even just be at this point. And I am super passionate about founders, building companies, and very passionate about go-to-market. So hopefully those will be some of the topics that we will talk about today. So first, it's funny because right before we came on, Taylor said, "Can we talk about how you started with selling books door to door?" And I said, it's very interesting when people look at my background, they always want to hear about this, even though it's so long ago. It was when I was 18 to 21 when I was in college. But when I was in college, I started a lot of my sales career by running my own company, selling educational books door to door. I sold with this company called Southwestern that's been employing college students since 1868. And it was fascinating because over those 4 summers while I was in college, I ended up talking to over 12,000 families in their homes. And I saw everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly when you show up. But also when you're a door-to-door person, most of you have probably had someone come door-to-door. When you knock on someone's door, you're not the most welcome person that they want to see. And so that experience actually made calling and doing cold calling on phones super, super easy. But it did make me, one, fall in love with being able to help people solve their problems, and doing it in a way where I was working on something that was really passionate and impactful, because I was helping families with helping their kids with their education. 2, I just learned that I loved storytelling, because that's so much of what sales and go-to-market is about hearing people's unique story and their own perspective and being able to help them. And that is something that's really, really important for early stage startups, is knowing how to tell the story in a way that emotionally connects. I'm still super passionate about book selling. Every year, I host a group of kids who are still selling door to door, and it turns out on Sunday I'm having 30 students who are selling door to door in the Bellevue, Seattle, and greater Seattle area are coming to my house. So thanks for bringing that up. It's fun. Got me super, super passionate. It's also majorly character building. Hardest job I've ever had in my life, by far.
And the storytelling aspect is, it's funny that it's still such an important part, even with all the tools we have and all the AI. So we'll get into that. Then you had a stint at B of A, Bain. You were at Ad Hoc, which I actually never heard of, but this was like a .com enterprise software company. You're VP of sales. And then you landed at Tableau, a little startup, right? Which was just blossoming. You were number 10 for salesperson. I mean, that must have been interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my journey was, I pretty much was always in sales. So early days, I was the one selling the candy bars and the cookie dough and all that. Then I sold books door to door for 4 years. One of the books that really inspired me when I was selling books door to door was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I love that book. It's still one of my favorite all-time books. You should read it if you haven't. It's a bit dated, but all the advice is great. I went and worked there for a year. I did sales training. I taught sales training, did management training. One of my clients hired me away at Bank of America. I did, so I sold residential mortgages for a while, so went from, oh, look at that, yeah. I taught the management course too, so that book as well. And so I sold books, I sold training, I sold mortgages, and then I decided, hey, if I ever wanted to be an entrepreneur, I needed to get a little bit more broader management skills. So I went to Wharton for business school and then worked a little bit at McKinsey and Bain doing strategy consulting. Then after consulting, I thought, you know what, I really want to get back into sales. And so I worked at this little startup called Ad Hoc. I ran client services and I ran business development and sales. But Ad Hoc was an amazing company, super smart people, but it was always a nice to have, never quite made it to need to have. So I learned a lot, and it was really helpful to be at a company where super smart people, great product, good technology, just never quite hit into that real groove of the product market fit. And then I had my kids when I was at Ad Hoc. I have 3 kids now. They're all adults. My middle son just got married, so it's making me feel like very old these days. And then actually the story for Tableau came full circle back to selling books, because my reputation at Stanford was, hey, Kelly ended up paying for school and paying for grad school and paying for her first house and paying for her first car, all with this crazy job she did selling books door to door. So if anyone has a startup, you should go find Kelly. And so Tableau was actually a Stanford spin-out. And somebody that I knew from my time at Stanford, her husband became the VP of Finance at Tableau, who was ultimately our CFO, Tom Walker, who you know. He was employee number 7, and then it was time to hire the first salesperson, so I ended up joining employee number 10, first salesperson 1 month before he launched version 1. Basically 0 in revenue, and then I was there running the sales organization, EVP of sales, effectively chief revenue officer, from 0 to 850 million over 12 years through the IPO and all that. Then from there, ended up deciding I wanted to do a few things, wanted to do some philanthropy, wanted to be able to help the next generation of founders and business leaders, and then be able to give back more in a board capacity. So I did a lot of board work. And I also teach at multiple business schools. So I teach at UW here at Foster Business School, culture-driven sales. That's how I ended up spinning out my own company, is because a lot of that content that I teach there, that now I also teach at Duke Fuqua School of Business, and I teach at North Carolina State. We spent half of our year in North Carolina. And one of my boards was Gong. And so then that's how I ended up joining Gong as president and chief operating officer as well. So that's a little bit of my ride. Now I spend most of my time doing stuff like this and teaching and culture-driven sales, which is my passion.
Yeah, let's circle back to Tableau and what are the lessons to pull from those early days? There's a lot of founders here. Obviously, that was 2005, 6, so different era, different technology. But in terms of what worked early with an enterprise sales motion, or the why, you talk a lot about the why of companies. Are there lessons that you remember from Tableau that are still applicable today for startups?
Well, I hope for all of you that you leave with at least a handful of tidbits of what you can actually think and apply and make it relevant and put it into practice. And so if I think back to early days of Tableau, I mean, there's a zillion lessons learned, right? You make so many mistakes and there's so many things that you learn. But maybe I'll leave you with a few. And also I talk to so many founders that there's definitely quite a bit of pattern matching of people are facing similar challenges. The first, and it's especially true for in the world of AI, with kind of product and engineering founders. I'm just curious, how many in this room, how many of you are actually founders? Oh, it's like 80% of the room. How many of you would call yourself like you're a product engineering technical founder? Okay, so about half of the group. So curious how you would describe the other half that weren't the product engineer, but we won't go to that now. So one of the things, and this is part of the reason that I teach culture-driven sales, so just to give a little bit of background, is when I finished that Tableau and I was starting to do all this other board work and thinking about teaching a course, a lot of the feedback was, well, how did you guys do that at Tableau? Like, how did you become one of the fastest growing software companies of that whole decade? And how did this team that everybody was first time CEO, first time CRO, first time CFO, how did you all do this? And like, how did you figure it out? And this was the question people were asking, which is what prompted me to start teaching a course on the subject and then to spin up culture-driven sales. And what we did at Tableau, because none of us had done it before, is we were very, very crystal clear from the beginning on what was our mission, what was our purpose, and what was our why. And so the mission of Tableau was help people see and understand data. That was the mission since I joined, and I joined before we launched version 1, right? And then we had the mission, and then we had our values. And so values, like the first value was we are on a mission. We build great products. We use those products. We had 10 values. I won't go into all of them now. But the interesting part is that really helped to lead us and inform decision making and create a level of focus. And what I find with a lot of founders is they're really, really focused on the what and the how. They know what their product is. They know how it works. They know all the developer pieces underneath. But the whole why is maybe not what they spend that much time on. And this is especially true for product technical founders. Like people who aren't the product technical founders, they're sometimes the ones that like, they're so passionate about this problem, even though they didn't understand the technology, they knew they had to come solve it. Because they care, they're feeling this power and this calling for it. And you know, when it comes to, especially on the go-to-market side, people don't buy because of the what and the how. People buy because of the why. They buy because there's an emotional connection to the problem you're solving, to your mission, to your purpose, to what you're doing. And so a lot of what we'll talk about, we could thread back through today, is how it's really important to be able to understand what is the mission of what you're doing, why does that matter, and why is it so important? One, it's going to drive alignment between all of your teams. It's going to help you to create the line between your corporate strategy and your go-to-market strategy. It's going to help you with your storytelling and how you talk about your brand, your website, how you make your pitches, how you go raise money. Clearly, it's going to help with how you hire and attract talent, because they're going to be the ones that actually care about that purpose and mission. And so the first thing I would say is be really thoughtful about your mission and your why. Don't leave that to the side. Like oftentimes I'll talk to founders and they'll be like, Kelly, whoa. I'm talking to you because I need your help on go-to-market. I want you to solve my problem. Should I be going SMB or enterprise? Like, how should I hire the first salesperson? Like, what should my price be? I don't have time to talk about that fuzzy, feely mission stuff. And I'm like, whoa, this is where the challenge is. Like, you have to be very crystal clear on the why first. Otherwise, all this other stuff, it's just going to end up being piecemeal, because that mission and purpose is what drives the alignment and threads all the way through. So that's maybe the first. Second thing that I will say is focus. Focus. Founders like to do like 25 zillion things at a time. I have to build this product and this feature and hire this and do that and launch in 72 different languages on day one. And I want to have every single sales motion, product, and SMB and enterprise on day 2. And you can only do, like, does anyone know how many things can you do effectively at a time? Okay, well, okay, so you're one. Usually the answer is somewhere between 3 and 5. Yeah, but you should go look at your strategic objectives and stuff. Like oftentimes founders have, 27 on year 1. So focus.
So you clearly learned a lot about this why, about the mission at Tableau. You get to Gong. I mean, Gong was kind of like an AI native company before that term was like cool to say. Did you find that those lessons, like I'm just imagining you giving this talk in like 2015 even, like, do you think it's still applicable and relevant in this era? And when you got to Gong, did the same lessons apply from Tableau in terms of sales and GTM, or did it shift because of the way Gong was positioned as this AI native company, and AI really a part of the business? Or like what was different and what was similar between your Tableau and Gong experiences?
I think, Taylor, it's a really interesting question because oftentimes people are thinking in this AI native, AI world, things are just different, especially the way go-to-market is. Everything needs to be automated, it's speed, it's fast, it's all about the product. Go-to-market is more replaceable, it's not as important. So we can talk about, I think maybe we'll get a little later into like what is the same and what's different in the AI age. But what I will say is there were a lot of things that were very similar about Tableau and Gong. So one was both were very, very value-based companies. So it goes back to what I was just talking about before. And that helps, like, each company, just like each person, each of you, if I were to go around, each person has your own personality. It's not like there's a good personality or bad personality, there's just different personalities, right? And that's true with each company. So each company has a different personality, they have a different mission, they have a different vibe, they have different values, and a lot of what it's going to take to make that company very effective. Of course, you want to have product market fit, you have to have the right time, you have to have the right product, but you really have to have the right people on the team. That's what you need to have. And so you want people that really align and are passionate with the mission and that they actually believe and align with the core values. So for instance, like at Tableau, I had mentioned, one of our core values was we use our product. And so everyone was really creative and innovative, and everyone was passionate about this mission of we help people see and understand data. We said in order to hire, you had to be kind of a data geek. You had to actually care about the data. Because if you didn't care about the data, how are you going to be passionate, especially early days in evangelical sale? If you're not passionate about what we're doing, how are you going to get someone else to be passionate and buy it? Now at Gong, very similarly, Gong was creating AI for go-to-market and this whole new revenue intelligence space. And so we wanted people that were super passionate about sales and go-to-market. So people were really, really excited about it. But then also, like Gong, one of the key values there, they called them operating principles, was challenge conventional wisdom. I mean, do people know Gong? How many people are familiar with Gong? Okay, so over half the people in the room. I mean, Gong in their brand, it's purple and pink. It had a dog in part of the brand. Like part of the logo has a sound. If you go Gong, it goes boom, so everyone's like, is there any other enterprise software that has a sound as part of the logo? So it was always about challenge conventional wisdom. And these things help to provide guidance to how we actually hired, how we did our work. And so all that was actually the same. Also, both were trying to create a whole new category, be really transformative of being a category builder. So there was a lot of similarities, and AI is the next generation of data. So I've always been in the data world. I mean, sometimes people say AI, it's not data, but it is. It's leveraging data in a way to be able to make suggestions. So those are a lot of similarities. I think what was different, though, is that there were a few things that were different that maybe are relevant to this group. Because one thing I will say is Gong and Tableau had very different approaches to raising money. And that actually had very different impact on how the companies operated. So let me explain. Does anyone know, you might remember, but anyone other than Taylor, does anyone have any idea how much money Tableau ever raised? Okay, who said that? Okay, so you know. Okay, so the answer is 15 million. Why do you know that? Okay. Do you just look it it up right now. Okay, benefit of AI, you can look it up. But so Tableau raised $10 million and then $5 million before I joined. So I joined as the first salesperson 1 month before we launched version 1. We never raised another dollar after I joined. So everything that we did at Tableau, and Tableau was the fastest growing software company for like almost a decade, was all completely like we were building our own hurrah. The philosophy there was customers come to you, you create the revenue, you create the buzz, and you need to live within your means. Otherwise your valuation gets too high and you get kind of lazy with how you spend money. Now, in the day of AI, because of storage and all technology that you need, it's a bit hard to be able to, especially if you're creating AI, if you don't have any money. So it is different. But Gong had a different approach. Gong was like, hey, we have this hot space, we're growing so fast, we're going to go raise a lot of money. But then that creates a different set. At Tableau, we had a challenge of like, there's all the things we want to do, but we don't have enough money. At Gong, there was a lot of money, but then how are you going to be careful that you're not spending the money? And we had a really big valuation. I mean, when I came off the board of Gong and joined as president and COO, Gong had a $7.25 billion valuation, which is a high valuation, you know, right at the time when valuations started going down. And so it's just in terms of decision making, it's a different way of thinking about it. So I think it's just a question to put back to all of you, is whether you choose to go out and raise a lot of money or not raise a lot of money, what are you going to do to make sure that you're still being fiscally conservative, that you are not living beyond your means, and that you are making sure that you are growing in a way where it's a sustainable, scalable growth pattern, rather than you're spending money to get your leads that is then converting into money, but then if you're not spending the money, you're not going to get any more. So I think that's just a different that you have. And then AI adds a whole different level that maybe we can get into too.
Yes, I was going to ask about AI, but I was going to ask you a more fun question. If you were starting a company today, and you're looking at GTM and sales, I guess it ties back to AI, but what would you spend on? What would you do with GTM and sales? Would you hire a salesperson? Would you do it yourself?
Yeah.
What would you do given all the tools that we have at our disposal?
I'll do it myself. If I was doing everything myself, then that would be kind of scary. But so here's the thing of it. There's a lot with go-to-market that is changing with AI. Like a lot that is changing that's really positive. But then there's some watch out that I see happening very frequently, especially with early stage technology founders, where I see it as making kind of having a blind spot and a mistake with AI, especially as it pertains to GTM. So let's talk first about what is actually really beneficial and what is changing. If you think about go-to-market, AI is helping in so many profound ways. I mean, this is part of the reason I was so excited to join Gong, because there's so many mundane tasks that humans were doing. I mean, this is true for AI and wherever. I mean, you're all saying this, you can take it into all of your own places. But in sales, if you think about, like, there were legions of SDRs, which are sales development reps, that were like scraping the world of information to figure out like what prospects are out there, who actually aligns with our ICP, who has these different characteristics. Now, companies still use SDRs, but like a lot of that can be automated now with AI, right? 2 is, in go-to-market, you always have to have a good pulse on what your customers are saying and what they're doing. And there's so many ways that we interact with them, with emails and phone calls, and there's multiple people at our company that interacts, and there's sentiment analysis about what are they saying about you on LinkedIn or on Twitter or wherever they're living. And there's all these different things that are happening, customer success tickets, problem tickets, all that. Now AI can go look at it, and this is what Gong is a master of with the revenue platform, of like, here is everything that you need to know about the customer, what they care about, what they don't care about, what their problem is. That was taking tons of time. So you should be using AI to help you gather information. You should be using AI and go-to-market to help you, whether it's Gong or something similar, to help you get an understanding of what your prospects and customers are saying. You should be using it as an assistant to help of like, hey, scrape all our conversations and help serve up what is a template or what's an email, so that you don't have to spend all your time like writing that, right? So all that is good. A few other things that are really good now for go-to-market. I remember even at Gong, which is an AI native company, I would ask our customer success reps when they were going to go meet with an important customer and do a QBR, which is a quarterly business review, it would take them hours. Sometimes like between 4 and 8 or more hours to create a QBR deck. If they would spend a whole day of their week preparing for like a 1-hour QBR. And now all that can be automated with AI. Because you can go get all that information. Other things that can be is like, we had whole teams that did competitive analysis. What are all our competitors doing? What's their playbook saying? What's their messaging? What's their email? What's their website say? AI can do that, right? So all that. So you should be really leveraging AI as you think about go-to-market to do all of that research, synthesis, what's your customer saying and doing. All of that can really be automated with AI. Here's the challenge on the flip side, though. Oftentimes what I hear founders say is, hey, I need to work and spend a lot of time on the product, on the features, on the technology. There's all of these tools for go-to-market. People are replaceable, and I'm not going to actually spend as much time on that go-to-market, on that marketing and sales stuff. I can go automate it all with AI. Here's the thing. Now, I'm a go-to-market person. I'm going to be contrarian to what you might be hearing out there, but I'm very strong on that. That is just totally, totally wrong. And I'll tell you why. This is my opinion. I'm passionate about it, and this is what you have to do. I'm passionate about culture-driven sales, so now this is what you need to do at your company. Be passionate about selling your idea. Everyone won't agree with it. It's okay. Everyone might not believe in what you're doing for your company, but you want to hone in on your ICP, who's your ideal customer profile, and focus on those who believe. So this is what I believe, so maybe you'll believe in it, or maybe you will not. That's okay if you disagree. But my feeling is, what is AI doing? AI is totally leveling the playing field. Why is that? It's leveling the playing field because it used to be that companies could be much better because they were experts in what they did. They had people at their company that worked at the McKinseys and Bain. They had their special PhD on the topic. They spent 20 years in this research and they knew. Okay, what's the AI doing? Anyone can be an expert like that. It's leveling the playing field on education and expertise. 2, all these operational efficiencies, some companies are much better with process. They're much better with how they streamline things, how they streamline their pipeline, how they do their forecasting, how they do all these operational reviews. But guess what? Even if a company's not good at it, AI can come in. I just talked about all these tools. And it can level the playing field. Now everyone can be fast and operationally efficient. Now let's even talk about something that's even more sensitive, the code base. Okay, so your product might be amazing now. And before it used to be patents, IP, all that really mattered. Now you have a great idea and you show that there's a market for it and there's huge market potential, there's big TAM. Someone else can come out and do some vibe coding and do a workaround, and maybe they can come up with something that's pretty similar on the technology standpoint. So there's not as big a moat on the technology. So if you are now in a place where education expertise has leveled, operational efficiency, speed, processes gets leveled, and even code base, you have a much leveler playing field, what is going to be the differentiator? And what if their customer executive board did a whole survey saying, why do companies not only buy but then stay loyal to companies? And many people thought it was going to be product, price. Those were both on the list. But over 60% of the reason came down to one reason. Anyone want to guess what that is?
Trust.
Trust is part of it. Any other guesses?
Relationship.
Yeah, relationship is part, but it's actually the experience that they get interacting with that company. And who is your experience interacting with a company? It's the go-to-market team. That's who's marketing to your company, that's who's selling to your company, that's who's servicing your company, that's who's supporting your company. So I think what's going to happen is everyone's all focused on all this AI, but as AI levels the playing field, the real differentiator and one of the key moats is going to be, what happens What's the customer experience when the agent or the bot doesn't show up the right way? How are you going to continue to maintain that trust? What is it that your company's teaching them on the thought leadership standpoint that's different and new? Why? And the people side, it's all about that emotional connectivity. This is why the why and the purpose becomes more important, because people are going to say, oh, all these companies look kind of the same. I want to be able to work with a company that I believe what they believe. They care about what's important to me. They have huge EQ in understanding my point of view. And so it's going to turn out the go-to-market is going to be critically important, and it's going to be how do you emotionally connect with your audience and your prospects and your customers.
Yeah, that's great.
Anyway, that's my feeling. So.
I think that lines up, and I think because of that, and I think founders feel a lot of pressure, right? I think because GTM is becoming even more important and perhaps even more difficult, despite having these AI tools at our disposal to automate a lot of the stuff you said. I think it's almost become harder because there's more competition, there's more noise.
But it's also an easier way to differentiate because many companies don't do it well.
So tactically, like, what should founders think about? Is it I should buy more LinkedIn ads, or should I go to the conference, or should I go to X, Y, or Z? What should they do? I mean, where should they put their resources, and how do you stand out in this really crowded scene, right? It's like there's so much competition, it feels.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's a wide question. We could take that a bunch of different ways. So I'll try to come up with a few things that, and we can have follow-on questions, but a few things that might be like tangible and actionable for you to take away here. The first is, oftentimes what I see, well, first I will go to make sure we don't lose sight of that first point that we talked about the mission and the purpose and the why. Just curious, for all of you, whether you're a founder or you work at a startup or you work at a later stage company, like how many of you, one, have a mission statement and can recite what the mission statement is? Okay, it's a problem. So I would say if you don't have a mission yet, and maybe you have a story, you have a why, maybe you're just, so I'll ask the question a different way. Maybe you don't have a firm mission statement that is these 11 words. How many of you, even if it were to take you to a paragraph, are pretty clear on explaining, like 2-3 sentence elevator pitch, your why? Okay, still only half of the room. So I would say action item is you need to go figure out what your elevator pitch and your why is. And ideally, you should be very clear on what your mission statement is. And the mission is hard. Like, if you're going to own, a mission statement shouldn't be more than 15 words. Good mission statements are usually between 9 and 11 words. And each word actually means something to actually convey in an aspirational and inspirational way why, like, what's the essence of your company? Why do you exist? And that is your North Star. And the biggest issue is as you go try to scale, like if you're hiring people but you can't articulate why you exist and why you matter and what's your purpose, then people are going to come in and they're going to focus then on you have this product, you have these features, but then you can end up having everyone running in different directions because no one actually is totally clear on what the North Star is. So that would be the first thing I'd say for takeaway. I'll try to give a couple other actionable. Second is, oftentimes I'll talk to founders and they want to create an environment where they think their product is so awesome, which every product is super awesome, right? That everything is awesome, that they want to create it where their market potential and their ICP is as wide and vast as possible. So how can I come up, oftentimes people are saying, like, when I ask about ICP is ideal customer profile, like who's your target audience, ICP, they'll give me 1 or 2 criteria that's like, we sell to enterprise companies. Great. Can you tell me a little more about that? No, we want to sell to all enterprise companies. You know, so we have this at Tableau. Tableau, our mission was we help people see and understand data. We felt every single company on the surface of the universe that had data was a potential prospect for us. You know how many companies at the time there were that did that? Way more companies now, because it's easier to start a company. At the time, there were 55 million companies. Now there's probably, I don't know, 1 billion companies. Okay, so you have to be really thoughtful of the job of early founders is it's as important, maybe more important to qualify out than to qualify in. So how can you be really, really focused on your ICP criteria? Have a list of 30 things, which are what are those companies, all of their characteristics, all of their attributes, all of their, like you look at all the demographics, you look at size, but then you want to look at use case and everything that are like highest propensity to buy, and you want to narrow in and hone in so you can focus on those companies that have the highest propensity to buy. So first is mission and why. Second, actually, that's part of the focus, really focus on your ICP. And the third, I would say, is like be really thoughtful about the people that you're bringing along on the journey with you. And this side, like maybe we'll get back to this at the end if we talk about culture, but I think people often are so focused on operational efficiency, building the product, and if you hire a few of the wrong people early on, you have wrong people on the bus, that's much harder to fix than you have to rebuild some code.
Well, we can just keep going here. This is awesome, but I do want to open up to questions if you have any. Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I think as a tech.
Hi, my name is Richard, and I have a very practical question for all the tech founders. I think as a tech founder, we always have a mindset that my product is not ready. My product is buggy, it's not stable. So let me just add more feature. Let's make it more like stable. Until then, I start to sell. So my question is like, should we sell our product as early as possible, or should we wait until it kind of come to a point we think is perfect to sell?
Great question. Everyone heard the question, right? I think a few things here. One is you don't want to put a product out there where it's going to be only part of your brand and it's literally not ready. But at the same time, like if you wait, like never let perfection get in the way of progress. So maybe you've heard that. Someone told me that really early on, like people are so focused on perfection that they don't actually move. So don't let perfection get in the way of progress. I'll tell one story. I'm looking at Bruce in the back. I did a podcast on Bruce has a podcast. I think I told this story on it. But this is a story I've told multiple times. It's early days at Tableau, and I call it the printer story. I think we had talked about this, right? And I'll just tell the story because I think this hits the nail on the head of what you're saying. So we launched early on, and at Tableau, like people were using Tableau to democratize data, but we connected to almost no databases. Early days, we connected to Excel, Access, we connected to Hyperion, to a Hyperion database, and that was it. And people are like, oh, you need to connect to Oracle, you need to connect to SQL, you need to connect to all these other databases that there's a zillion more now, and we didn't connect. But we still went out there because our mission was we help people see and understand data, and we knew that if someone used it just with the drag and drop, we knew whatever they were doing, they could do much faster in Tableau. But there were a whole bunch of enterprise features and security we didn't do. But this was early on, so 2005 I joined Tableau. We were selling a product that was $2,000 per license. It was like, we were like churning out every customer we could have. And this was a big sale. It was like opportunity. I think they wanted to buy 10 licenses. It would have been like one of the biggest sales of 2005. And this guy downloaded a trial. He's using the trial. And the trial was a 14-day trial. I called him a few days later, and he said, Kelly, I'm loving using this. But I'm trying to figure out, I need to go show it to people in our company, and I can't find the print button. Okay, so remember, I'm a salesperson, I didn't even know about print screen back then, but, so I'm like, well, there's no print button. And he goes, okay, well, how am I gonna share it? Can I have export to PDF? Can you export to PDF? No, that's a great feature idea. We don't have that. We should have that sometime. Okay, well, can I put it up in the cloud? Because we had a perpetual license early on. Can I share it? Can I put it up in the server somewhere? Said, great idea. We're working on Tableau server right now. The roadmap's like in 18 months, 2 years. So no, I can't help you with it now. And he goes, okay, well, I just did this piece of analysis. It's amazing. I can't buy the software if I can't show it to anyone. I did it really fast. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'm just curious, like, where are you? He's like, I'm in my office. I go, well, where are the people that you want to show it to? He's like, they're down the hall. I said, oh, okay, are you on a desktop or a laptop? He said, I'm on a laptop. I was like, answer solved, totally easy. Undock your laptop, stand up, go walk it down, show it to the rest of the team, then call me back. Literally 15 minutes later, call me back. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. They loved it. We want to buy our 10 licenses. So,
I think that's
well, the reason I tell the story, it's not to toot my own horn in the sales thing, but what it is that each of you, this is why it comes back to the mission too. There's something that you do where it's so compelling about your story. Like, people just, they need what you have for a really compelling reason. You don't have to have all the features. You don't have to have all the widgets. You just need to hit the nail on the head with the thing that they care the most about. This is why you have to be really specific on your ICP. Now, if you can get that part of the product, that part ready, you don't have to have everything else ready. For us, we just had to show people that we could democratize the data and allow them to get to an insight way faster than they could with anything else. And that was enough for them to go buy. Even though they were asking about all these other things. Now, if that was buggy, we would have had to wait. But I think that's one place to go.
Okay, maybe one more question over here. Do you want to have a question?
When you transferred over to Tableau, I imagine being a month out from product launch and like starting, that the onboarding process wouldn't be, I mean, I imagine like onboarding process would usually take some amount of time, and so like when you came in, sort of one, what was your decision-making process in being like, oh, this is a place for me? And then two, how did you shift when like shit hit the fan, essentially?
Okay, those are two very different questions. Well, so first, how did I know? So I think this comes back to the why again. So I'm kind of a broken record here. But so the mission, help people see and understand data. Tableau is all about democratizing data. I was a startup person in sales. After business school, I went and worked at McKinsey and Bain. And I was an operator at heart. And they had hired me because like I was a salesperson that knew how to talk to people. But I still had to like sit behind a desk and do all this analytics. And I would be sitting until, we were working over 100 hours a week as consulting. I've worked over 100 hours a week my entire life, so it didn't change when I went into fountain being, early stage. But I was sitting behind a computer doing all this like analytics. Then I'd want to tell a story with it. I couldn't understand, so I had to walk it over to some report writing group who would then churn out like the 120-page deck. And that 120-page deck, we'd go and meet with whoever our client was for 1 hour. We could get through like 5 slides. They'd ask a question, and then we'd have to make a meeting. And a month later, we'll come back in a month to answer your one question. And then Tableau's whole mission was we help people see and understand data. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not going to have to spend 7 hours changing the shade of red. To like the customer doesn't even care. And so I was so personally attracted to the mission, and then also the people were just so smart and the values, so that's what brought me to the company and kept me to the company. I think what happens when the problems get really hard, this is why it's really important that you have the right people on your team. So this I say in every single podcast, every single speaking. I think I've done it like since so 20 years. I can't leave a session like this without saying it, so those of you who have been at sessions of mine, you've heard me say it before, but people always ask me like, okay, well, if you're really early stage, like what should be my priorities? Or if we're like in the scaling stage or going enterprise, what should be our priorities? Or if we're about, we're gonna go public, what should be our priorities? And everyone always has these different questions. I think I'm gonna have totally different answers for what the top priorities should be based on scale and stage and what you're doing. And guess what? My 3 priorities have always been the same. They will never change, and they will be the same regardless of early stage, late stage, whatever. critically important, I believe, for founders. So, interested in hearing my 3 priorities? Okay.
No, we gotta go.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So, priority number 1 is people. Priority number 2 is people. Priority number 3, anyone want to guess? Is people. It's people, people, and people. And this is why I'm so passionate about this, especially in the world of AI. Because you can have the right product at the right time, in the right space, and you have the wrong people, and you're going to have a major problem, as we talked about earlier. Because why is it? It's people who are building the product. Now, even if it's agents that are building the product, it's people who are directing the agents to build the product. It's people who are engaging with your customers. It's people who are hiring other people. It's people who are managing those people. It's people who are engaging with your community at large, right? It's people who are reflecting on your brand, especially when something goes wrong. It's what we talked about. What's going to come back and how are people going to solve that trust and that relationship with it? So if you do something wrong with your technology, which every company does, you're also going to have people are going to have to go fix it. So you have to have the right people to fix it. But you're like every company at Tableau, I could talk about the mistakes we made for way, way longer than I could talk about the things that we did right. Because companies do a lot of things wrong. But if you have the right people that are aligned on your mission and the vision, they're smart, they're aligned with your values, they're the ones that are going to be committed on what to do, then you can pivot, you can shift gears, you can be able to build a great company together. So you have the right people, you can get through a lot of different problems. So I know you are probably saying, what are the processes and procedures and operations that you do when things are wrong? But it actually all comes down to people, people, people. So be very intentional about the people when you continue to hire. Even more important, because you're hiring less people now. Because there's so many more AI agents, and AI is doing a lot more of the work. So you have fewer people, so the people part becomes even more important.
Yeah, I guess just to close, I'm struck by the conviction in the human element of all this, the people element, as we are in this world of AI where everything's being automated, all these tools are, yet it seems like even more so than in the past, the people part of this, in your eyes, is just even so much more important.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the questions that we got the questions before was like, how do you evolve from founder-led to sales-led? And how do you transition when you're really early stage and you're building a go-to-market engine? And oftentimes, like with this, because I know this was a big question, I got it even my office hours before, this comes back to the same thing. And why is that? Founders are actually really articulate about explaining their why. Like they know why they exist, why it matters, what's the purpose. They're super passionate about it. You can see the energy goes off. They're really good storytellers. There are some founders that they're saying, oh, there's AI. I asked ChatGPT what's the biggest opportunity, there's huge money making, and they don't care anything about it. They just see that there's an opportunity. Like those people have to actually go figure out what their why is, because that's going to be hard to motivate a team to come work for them or customers to come want to buy your product. But founders are so passionate about it that then they go hire their first salespeople, especially technical founders that you see more in technology. And then what do they give their new salespeople? They give them a whole pitch book of here are all my features and functions and here's all the what and the how. And then people come back to me and go, I'm not even in sales, I'm a founder. And I can sell it. Now I just hired someone that has 20 years of sales experience. And why can they not sell the product? First question I ask them, well, how do you engage with the customer? How are you selling? And it's all mission, vision, story, here's my why, here's my purpose. Okay, well tell me, what is the salesperson doing? Oh, let me tell you how great my company is. Here are all our features, all our functions. Here's how we're going to get you our ROI. And whoo. And so remember, last thing I'll leave you with is, and then if people have more questions, we can take this later too, but People love to buy. They love to buy. What do they hate? They hate to be sold. So remember that. People love to buy. They hate to be sold. What happens with early founders is when the founder-led sale, they're helping people buy because they're talking to people about they believe what they believe. They care what they care about. And then you start hiring your salespeople, and what do you tell your salespeople to do? Go sell, 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 sell. And so it's all not about the customer. It's not about the purpose. It's not about the why. And it's not customer-centric. It's like all vendor, me, this is why we're so great. So you lose that emotional connection. This again is why people is so important in this AI world. Because you have fewer people. Those need to emotionally connect. Buying is still an emotional decision. And so just make sure you're putting the right people on the bus that are going to be able to emotionally connect, that are going to help people buy and help people like see the light and see the vision of why you are starting the company and pouring your heart and soul into what you're doing. So, and then I want to make sure we can take a group picture first before we end. So,
Yeah,
since I'm a salesperson, I'm going to post it.
we should just end this, but I think
I can talk forever.
I feel like AI is also making buyers more nervous, or they're like even more scared to figure out what's real and what's not. So I guess I'm just defending your point even more.
Yeah, what's real and what's not. There's all this fake stuff, and so you got to talk to a person. So it does. Like anyway, I think one of the things I will say too is be really thoughtful, and intentional about your story. So everyone's thinking about their features and their functions, but the story is, and this is what I teach in my class. One of the real tricks to go to market is when you think about the go-to-market arc and how can you integrate a go-to-market strategy that it like ties to your corporate strategy and your product strategy. It's not just you have this corporate strategy, you throw it over the fence to the go-to-market team and say, just go create some playbooks and go sell something. It has to be really integrated. So how is it integrated? Well, it really starts with this mission, vision, and values that I'm talking about. Then you have your company story, which is your founder story to encapsulate this why. Then you have to be really clear on what are your differentiated value propositions. Like, what are you doing that is really different and unique? And this is one thing that's really hard in AI. Like, you go look at everyone's website, you take their branding off, and you look at people's value proposition. I'll tell you, Google could do it to your competitors. They all look identical. You can't tell any difference. So you have to figure out, what are you doing that's really unique? And that probably will tie back to your mission and your why, because you're doing something in a different way. So then you have your differentiated value proposition. Then you need to figure out who is your ideal customer profile, that narrower group that really cares about what you believe in. And then you figure out what is the best way to go reach this ICP with my unique message, with people that care about my story and my mission. And then and only then can you go figure out, well, should I be selling SMB or mid-market or enterprise? What should my sales motion be? How should I be doing this? But oftentimes what happens is founders get their product, they throw it over, oh, I'm gonna go hire a salesperson, they're gonna go figure out all this operational stuff, but they haven't figured out all that first. And so hopefully that's what you're doing here at AI House, that's what you're doing in your company. You have to figure out, what is this whole corporate strategy and this whole go-to-market umbrella first, before you start hiring the salespeople and figuring out the price and figuring out your sales motion. If you don't have that and you just start doing this, you're going to have a lot of fits and starts. And I think that's one thing that we did well both at Tableau and Gong, is we're so clear on the mission, the vision, the story, the values. How are we doing things in a different way? That then when it became time to go build the motion, it's easier because you know who you're targeting and what's the best way to reach them and engage them.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for your time and your passion and energy. Oh yeah, so we gotta go to the picture.
Before we close, we're going to do the picture shoot. So everyone can lean in, and I'll do it here with the selfie. And we have, okay. Let's see. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you, Kelly.
But thank you
so much.
Thank you. All before people have questions. Oh, and also, so, like in sales, what you want to do is you want to go connect with people. So I encourage you to connect with everyone else. If you want, you can find me, Kelly Breslin Wright, and then I have a lot of content, like different podcasts, articles, speaking things. So if you want to learn more about storytelling or how to build a company from scratch, all those kind of things, there's different podcasts, and that's all on culturedrivensales.com. So thank you.
About 30 minutes, so feel free to